Hello guys, so in this video we will be deploying one Angular project to AWS. So in this process of deployment we will need several things. The first part is code commit, code pipeline and code build, and then we will need one S3 bucket and cloud front, and then finally Route53, and just before cloud front we will be needing one ACM. So these are, you can say, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps we will be dealing with code commit, and it is very important to pay attention to this region, that all your entities that you are creating should be in the same region, right? So let's begin with this. We are going to create a repository and going to name it inner circle moderator create, and we are done. Just in order to access this repository we will need to create one IAM user. So I'll be going ahead and creating a code commit full access user. It is just going to have a programmatic access. We are going to attach this code commit policy directly. Review create user, and that's it. Okay, so in order to access this user via our system and Git, we will need to generate the SSH keys id.pub copy. This command copies your public key to clipboard, and if you are using Linux you will need to use this command. This will display this your public key here, and you can go ahead and copy this on your clipboard. So we are going to upload one SSH key. We are going to do this, and we are going to copy this SSH key ID. So let's add a note here, notes.txt. This is the SSH key ID that we are going to use later on. Okay, so I'm closing this tab. Now back to this, we are going to copy this URL, right? Git status, everything is committed, and now what we are going to do is git remote add AWS. I'm going to name this remote AWS. You can name it whatever you want. We are again going to copy this SSH URL, and just before hitting enter we need to ensure that we copy this user ID and add one @ here while adding, and git push AWS master. So this is just way of identifying to AWS that we are authenticating ourselves with this SSH key. Okay, so here we are. We have already done this, and okay, so in this part we are done with code commit. Now we need to start with code pipeline. So pipeline name will be inner circle prod pipeline. By the way, this is a production environment we are going to do, so we are using prod. If it was a development environment, we would have chosen dev or space accordingly. So we are going to create a new service role. We are going to default S3 location. We are not going to fiddle with it. Now the source will be code commit, and it is very important that you do your initial push to the repository before coming on this step, because you will need to choose the branch, and unless and until you have pushed all the commits, no branch will appear in this drop down. So we are going to use CodePipeline. Okay, so let's use CloudWatch events. Build provider will be code build, region will be North Virginia, and we could have created a user from this step, but I like this way of creating it, so we are going to do it this way. Project name will be inner circle prod build. So the first syllable is name of the project, second syllable is environment, and third syllable is the name of that or type of the entity. So earlier we had chosen inner circle. I can show you the name, but it was inner circle hyphen prod hyphen pipeline, and in this case we are going to use dev. We are going to use an Ubuntu with Node.js, with runtime will be Node 10. We are going to create another new service rule for this. Okay, now this remains the same, this remains the same. We are just going to create this pipeline. Now I should close this tab because this was successfully created, and we are going to click on next, deploy provider. We are going to skip the deploy stage, yes, and it is done basically. This will fail for the first time because we have not configured anything yet. Actually it was pre-configured in this project, but it will fail anyways. This part will succeed, but this part won't. Okay, so no need to wait and see. We are just going to go ahead with this. Now we need to create a bucket with the same name as it would appear on the website. So our name will be mod.ic.rara.com. We are going to click on next, and again next. Let's remove these. Next. By the way, this won't do any harm because this bucket is going to be public anyways. Next, and create this bucket. So we have our bucket created. We needed okay, so now how the way it works is there is one build spec file in which we configure everything. These are the commands that install basically everything that needs to be installed on server before building the project, and these are the build commands, and this is the post build command, which basically dictates where the files this directory files will be copied and what to do with them. So just go to github.com/devslam, setup helper, and we need this file basically. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this existing. We are not going to use the old one. Okay, so these are the three variables that we are using in this file, first, second, and third. Let's not worry about this, and I am going to delete this one for now. So I'm going to get add -a git status git commit -a changed build spec file. By the way, this file needs to be on the root of the project. So if it was not created earlier, I'm going to just quickly go ahead and demonstrate this to you. New file, the name would be build.yml, and we would just paste whole thing right here and remove this as we discussed earlier. Git add -a builds spec file and git push AWS master. So any push done on master branch of this code commit repository is going to trigger one build process. And one more thing, what this build env does is, in AngularJS we can have multiple build envs and these environments. So right now we are going to use one prod env. So we just have to ensure that build in configurations we have one production configuration. In end-to-end testing so there are three configurations and we need to have this build environment for all these three configurations. So we have one for production under serve command, one for production under architect E2E end-to-end testing, and the third one would be under the build command. So we have dev and here we have production. Fine. So one more thing we are going to do is open code build. By the way, this failed as expected. This is the project that we had created. We are going to edit environment of this project and we are going to add few environment variables. One would be name of the S3 bucket, which is being used by this. Another would be the build env, and carefully copy this from angular.json. Basically it's vice versa, but since this project is already configured but we needed production deployment, so I'm going to copy it and update the environment. So let's see if we have any pipelines. Fine. Okay, so now I'm just going to make any change here. Let's add one echo statement. Test. Let's echo this here. Okay, let me take a short break and fix these errors and then I'll come back. Okay, so we have now fixed this and I'm going to do this push AWS master. So hopefully this should work now. By the way, we will probably need to give access to this role. We will need it as 3 full access and cloud front access as well. This is not needed at this stage, but it is needed later on. Okay, so this is the error that we have received. It was because of the lacking S3 access. So we are just going ahead and this runs with a delay, and after it fails there will be a retry button and we are just going to retry it, and with the new permissions it will work. Okay, so we have our retry button and it is retrying now. So okay, Okay, so it has been done and it was a success. So basically what happened in background is all your build files are now copied in this S3 bucket. Okay, so from last part, the only change that we had to do was we were earlier using this mod.ic.rara@.com, but it was not possible because it uses two level domain. So we can only use a single level domain. So we had to change it to mod.ic, and we had to change that again in environments also, as I have mentioned in last video. So now the code is deployed. We have to turn on the static website hosting, and we have to add index.html in both error and index, and this is very important to add it in error document to enable routing in Angular. So we have our website now, but it is not accessible. This is because we have not given public permission to this website. So again, we'll go to this repository, we'll go to this bucket policy, and we will copy this policy. We will copy this ARM and paste it here, and please ensure that we have a trailing slash and a star sign. Okay, now this has public access and we will be able to so we are able to access this website. Now again, coming back to this, we will need two things now. One is ACM certificate, which we already do have, by the way. So let's just assume that we were creating a certificate. So we would go on this step and type rara-app.com and go to next and review and confirm, and after confirming we would have to add this to our DNS records. So now we have two certificates, but it was just for demonstration purpose, so I'm going to delete it, and after some time that certificate would also be issued as this one is now. So we are done with S3, we are done with CodePipeline, and the last piece of this puzzle is CloudFront. So we are going to create a new distribution. The path name will be the website of S3. So in my case it is going to be this particular website. We are going to redirect HTTP to HTTPS. The name would be mod-ic.rara.com. We are going to use a custom certificate, and that would be star.rara.com. We are going to create a distribution, and that's it. We just have to wait until this one is deployed. Meanwhile, what we are going to do is we are going to create a record. It has to be the same one that we had mentioned it in the C name. It would just go to alias, and CloudFront distribution would be, and we just simply create it. So this process takes 15-20 minutes in general. So after 15-20 minutes it will be deployed. And by the way, just a cleanup step, this was the record that was created while we were creating a new certificate, so we can just go ahead and delete this record, but please ensure that we are deleting it after the certificate is issued. Okay, so I just forgot a step. We have to add this distribution ID in our environment variable as well, and the name of the variable would be, okay, so we had removed one line, and just we are going to add back that line, and this is the CloudFront distribution ID that was meant to be for later on, and we are going to update the environment. So all this step does is it just invalidates the cache created by CloudFront whenever we do a new push. And in the meanwhile, I believe okay, it's already here. So you can see this is live and working. And this redirect is because of application logic, so it's nothing to worry about.